Episode 4 Wanted. Rumors of a Wave Master with the monster in tow are being spread. Tsukasa is becoming infamous, and this worries Mimiru. As I said in the previous episode, Tsukasa is now the center for all information. All roads point to him, and the more the world antagonizes him, the less willing he will be to come out and talk to them. Subaru, using her connections with CyberConnect, was able to access the logs of Tsukasa's character and has found troubling information. Tsukasa's records show that he hasn't logged off for 10 straight days. So that confirms it, right? Tsukasa is trapped in a video game. No. It only proves that he's been logged in for 10 days. Occam's razor. Don't jump to impossible conclusions. What it does prove is that they have even more reason to find Tsukasa, but also, to prove anything, they need to go to Tsukasa's in real life location. But that's a line that Subaru might not yet be willing to cross, and she's not wrong. Welcome back to the sidebar, where I talk about side subjects that relate tangentially to the topic. Today's subject is liminality. It means the blurring of line between multiple worlds. Now, this doesn't just have to mean locations like the virtual world and the real world. It can also mean ideas, classifications, or philosophies. For instance, the concept of personal responsibility. A lot of the dot hackers will contend with this very concept. Can you be personally responsible for something that happens inside a video game? And if you are responsible in the video game, does that compel you in the real world as well? Let's look at this situation with Subaru. She is a community manager for a video game, and the leader of a fictional royal guard force. If these worlds are equal, then being effectively a queen in one world would completely trump the other. However, we know that these two roles are not equal. The world isn't real. However, she is now faced with the problem that can only be solved by getting information that she should not be allowed access to, given her position in the real world. It's the kind of information that really only someone of real authority should have. That being said, if the story is true, and Tsukasa is actually trapped in the game, is she obligated, be it morally or ethically, to intervene? Is she a player, or is she a queen? Is she an admin, or is she role-playing? Back with Tsukasa, we see him contemplating his existence. Specifically, what happens if I die? Now let's examine that. Now I know the answer because I read ahead in the textbook. But for the sake of argument, Tsukasa doesn't know at this point if he will respawn. Death is a very important part of the human psyche, and seeing as he decided to make the world his new home in episode 1, he has undoubtedly thought about the concept a lot in his alone time. For example, now that he knows that he can feel pain, what happens if he gets horribly killed by one of the many monsters? Will that hurt just as much as the real thing? If you watched ReZero, ask yourself if you think Natsuki Subaru enjoyed dying over and over again. In a much broader sense, what he's really asking is, how real am I? Morgana intervenes, telling him that the three of them are going to do great things together and be safe forever. He says she's lying, a natural response from Tsukasa, who always distrusts authority figures. He questions how he can trust her when he's never even seen her and she won't tell him her name. And that's when she says, fuck. Alright, so we know that's a lie. Obviously. His mom is dead. This move by Morgana is actually very clever. All she says is, you should know who I am. And Tsukasa's mind filled in the blanks. If Morgana was his mom, it would explain everything. It would explain why he was chosen. It would explain why the voice was showing him unconditional love and protecting him. It would explain why he is gaining everything he thinks he wanted. Morgana will be filling the void of a parental figure, who Tsukasa doesn't have to fully understand and is inclined to obey. Back with Subaru, we see her talking with the store clerk. This is another example of information that you wouldn't know by them outright telling you. See, the merchants in this game are NPCs, which would make it strange that she would be talking to it. What you learn in the games is that the system admins talk to players using merchant models as conduits, so she is talking with the admins about Tsukasa and what they can do about him. She is still debating how far she should be ethically allowed to intervene. For now, she has asked the system admins to restrict his access until they learn what he's doing and how he's doing it. Sora finds this to be a boring solution, but he also truly believes that Tsukasa has found the key of the Twilight, so he's not too worried. He suggests to capture him instead so they can talk with him. Subaru, of course, is very against the idea of putting a bounty on a player. And again, she's not wrong. Even if he was just a normal player, the system admins witch hunting a single person is completely unethical and just should not happen. However, she can't ignore the fact that something has to be done. Black and white means we are in the real world, and a hooded figure tries in vain to light a cigarette in the rain. We can assume from the next scene that this man is in fact Bear, and he just visited a hospital. He calls Mimiru to meet him alone, and asks her to go on a dungeon quest with him. She is confused, seeing as more important matters than the game are happening, but she agrees. As they are fighting a random mob, he tells her that he may have found Tsukasa in the real world, and that he might actually be a girl. He can't confirm any of it, but if it is true, then he has once again seen something truly impossible. Back to the real world shot, we can see that Bear is fumbling with a cigarette. A cigarette is a great way to tell you something about a character quickly without expositing it. It shows that he's very obviously an adult. He's stressed about a situation, and the aspect that I want to focus on is that he wants to indulge in one of his habits. Habits are normal. You do them without thinking. If you've ever had a stressful day and you decided to watch a familiar TV show or play a game you've played 1,000 times, you have experienced it. It's a non-verbal call to normalcy after a day of irregularity. In the next scene, Bear asks Mimiru to do something very mundane. They both know that they are involved with a very serious situation, so it comes as a surprise to Mimiru when he would ask her to do something so benign. Bear wants to go to a dungeon to talk to her about Tsukasa, but also to return to a sense of normalcy. The possibility that a player's soul is trapped inside a video game that he plays for fun has shaken him to his core, and even now he still can't believe it. Back with Subaru, we get more troubling news after talking with the admins. They did indeed restrict his access, but he is still online, which means that not even the admins can do anything about him. Everything that happens around Tsukasa just gets more and more impossible. Her options are getting limited, while the mystery keeps getting more complex. Mimiru and Bear travel to the cathedral to meet with Tsukasa and ask him about what they learned. They also speak about the uniqueness of the cathedral and how there are no other areas like it. We learn from the games that zones are instanced and procedurally generated using keywords. Later in the series, it's revealed that this location in particular is hard-coded to the game by its creator, and it can never be removed from any version of the game for some unknown reason. Detail for another time. The duo tell Tsukasa what they heard and ask him if he's a girl. He denies it, but is also angry that they went prying into his business, and he leaves. Bear decides that you can only take him at his word and doubtfully resolves to return to square one. He is of course completely right about Tsukasa's true gender. That being said, Tsukasa wasn't lying. He thinks he's a boy, and for the most part he is correct. When Morgana took her, she also made him forget that he was a girl. And even then, he's chosen to abandon that other world anyway, so to him, who cares what he was in the other world? He's a boy and that's all that matters. Oh, you fucked up. These girls picked the wrong day to mess with him. He calls his guardian and goes all out, reveling in having power over people. However, that control is immediately taken away when he calls the guardian off. Remember what I said about Tsukasa in the previous episodes. Tsukasa always wants to be in control of his environment, and thought he was in charge of the guardian. Learning the truth of his powerlessness, another crack in his world has appeared. News of the attack reaches Subaru and she finally takes a stand. She has officially put a bounty on Tsukasa, and ordered him to be captured and brought to her. The ramifications of this decision are important, but that'll be for another time. This was a heavy episode, and the next one just gets crazier. I hope you're enjoying the content, and if you've stuck with me this long, I thank you. I'll see you in the next one.